welcome to you. And I'm thankful to you for having spare time and taken trouble to address our participants on a subject which is of vital importance to India. Indian Ocean, Western countries say that it is not India's ocean, but exactly India has a lot to do with what happens in Indian Ocean. So that's why the subject is of topical interest. And that's why I thought of you, because you have done a lot of research, you have written a lot of articles on this. So nobody could have been better equipped than you to speak on this subject. So please take your own time and be convenient, and you can start your address. So please.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk to the participants, and particularly the course itself very much appealing to me. So the foreign policy, the course on foreign policy. So that's like very demanding and very glamorous course, I can say. So after greetings, my greetings to all the participants. As sir has rightly mentioned that this maritime security in Indian Ocean region. So that is a very important topic as far as foreign policy of any country is concerned. Particularly as far as foreign policy of India is concerned, it's it's very vital topic because the participants that the objective of any foreign policy. Objective of any foreign policy is like to ensure national security, to ensure national interest for the country. And when we talk about national security, this maritime security plays an important role. So this as far as national security and national interest is concerned, so this maritime security, you can say it's a if I talk about national security, then maritime security can be considered as a sub part of the overall architecture of national security. So in that context, as far as foreign policy, study of foreign policy is concerned, study of national security is concerned. So it's simply national security, as you know, that it simply means ensuring security for a nation. Okay, and that security can be ensured in different ways. As you know, that there may be security securing the country from external threats, which may come through the land borders, and as well as particularly when India is India has a huge coastline, particularly the southern India, peninsular India, about 7,500 kilometers is the land. The coastline of India. So a significant part of India's international border. So that is sharing the seas. So in that context, as I have said, that there may be threat through land borders. So there may be threat to through the sea lanes also, through the seas also. So in that context, it is very important to ensure the national security. Now, when we talk about national security, again, there are some concepts which you should be very much clear about. That one is traditional security, and another is non-traditional security. Particularly when we talk about traditional security, which simply means the military security, securing the country for any kind of military aggression, any kind of attack, invasion by other countries, physical invasion by other countries. So that is mostly the traditional security concept. But there are many threats to non-traditional threats also to security. For example, it may be a threat to your environment. It may be a threat to any other aspect, like it may be your natural ecosystem. It may be your food security. It may be health security. So there are other non-traditional areas of security also. Similarly, again in maritime security, you can understand that in maritime security, again it can be understood in two ways. Particularly the threats which is coming from any other enemy country or any other organization, terrorist organization on the country. So that can be under maritime security, that can be considered as the traditional security. But again, when we talk about maritime security, as you know, as every country, particularly India, is having its territorial waters. So I mean the biodiversity, I mean protecting the maritime biodiversity. So that becomes a part of that non-traditional security threat. So again, within that broader architecture of national security, this maritime security comes, and under within maritime security also you can find both type of security threats. One is traditional security threat. I mean through your through the seas, as India shares its borders with it has its coastline. So through these seas, these water bodies, this threat may come from any enemy forces. It may be terrorist organization. It may be any country. So this within this maritime security itself, again this concept of security, traditional security and non-traditional security is also there, and also at the same time that economic security, because these water bodies, particularly Indian Ocean region. So this vast stretch of water. So through this, the international trade take place, the bilateral trade take place. Okay, so there are different sea lanes through which the ships passes. So in that context also there is need to protect the sea lanes. Okay, so for the smooth trade with other countries. So there are within this maritime security. These issues of traditional security and non-traditional security also comes, and then as I told you, maritime security, particularly we are talking about in the context of Indian Ocean region. Okay. So it's simply maritime security. I hope you know the simplest meaning. If you talk about simplest meaning of maritime security, is security of the seas. Okay, so security of the oceans, ensuring preventing any kind of threat to the any challenges on the seas. So it may be challenges to the biodiversity, as I told you, as part of non-traditional threat. It can be it can be threat to your ships. Suppose your ships are carrying the goods, cargoes along the ships, so there may be piracy, there may be threats. So protecting that also, and also there may be threat from different terrorist organizations that I'm just coming a bit later. So very few data, because I'm not going to overload you with data. I'm just trying to make clear the concept, and particularly few of the recent developments, and particularly in the context of foreign policy, particularly India's foreign policy, for any other foreign any foreign policy of any other countries which are sharing their water bodies, which are having the coastals, okay, coastal lines. So it is of it is of utmost importance. So simply Indian Ocean, that that it is the third largest world's third largest oceans of the world. So there are 5 oceanic divisions. So it is third largest of the third largest oceans. So it simply means, by this data I want to make it very clear to you, just to impress upon you, that this water body is this area, this region, this maritime region. So that is of vast importance. It both is in its size and as well as in its important. And as I told you, that
Dr. Biswas,
yes,
please adjust your camera. I mean, your face is not visible.
it is
Yeah.
not visible.
Yeah, a little more. You come up.
Okay,
Yeah,
is it
now
set?
it's all. Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay,
Fine
sir.
now. Fine.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir. So as I mentioned, that India is it is very natural for India to to take interest, utmost interest, I say, that in as far as maritime security is concerned. First of all, the reason is that it is having a very large coastline, over 7,500 kilometers. So obviously, as far as protecting its coast is concerned, from any kind of threat, as far as in its territorial waters, as far as is the biodiversity, protecting the biodiversity is concerned, in the territorial waters, or even in the Indian Ocean region, as far as trade is concerned with other countries, as far as economic interest is concerned. So in that context also, India cannot afford to ignore the importance of maritime security. Okay, so securing sea lanes of communication. So there are different major sea lanes of communication. So those plays very important role in energy security and economic prosperity also. Particularly, that when we need to import energy, we need to import petroleum. So when these cargoes, the ships comes through these sea lanes. So it is very it is very important to protect the lanes for your smooth supply, uninterrupted supply of energy from energy sources from other countries, as well as as far as doing trade with other countries is concerned. So both from the point of view of energy security and economic prosperity, so this is very much important. So in as far as India's maritime security is concerned. Now just if I take the example of China also, it is not about India. So you see that there is a dispute regarding South China Sea. China, when China is trying to capture this, area, has its dominance in South China Sea. And not only that, China is also trying to enter into this Indian Ocean region. And you might have heard the term, that string of pearls. By that, pearls of, string of pearls doctrine or strategy, China is trying to encircle this, entire region. And particularly, wants to very much interested to establish its hegemony in this Indian Ocean region. So this fact simply tells you how important it is, this the maritime security in every country's foreign policy. Okay, every country's national security, every country's national interest. Now, as I told you that I'll be talking about some of the initiatives which the government of India has taken, and again which will prove to you that this is very much important as far as this. Just a minute. So having this, overall national security interest. The foreign policy goals. So this, and particularly for a particular geographical location, that India's long coastline. So India has a natural interest in maintaining this maritime security, and in line with that, it is in line with that, the government of India has been taking up many initiatives. Okay, and there are constant effort by the government of India to ensure that to enhance maritime security in the Indian Ocean region. Okay, so there are many initiatives, but I'll mention just the latest one. So there has been a multi-agency maritime security group which was formed in 2021 November. So particularly this multi-agency maritime security group. So they are just to ensure the coordination among different agencies. For example, there is Marine Police, there is Indian Navy. So there are different agencies which are responsible for protecting the coastlines, for ensuring security in the in the marine in the maritime area. So in that context, so there is a necessity to ensure proper coordination among these different agencies who are responsible for ensuring maritime security. And particularly this extra effort, as I told you, that maritime security also, there can be two kind of component. One is that a traditional security threat, and particularly after 2008 Mumbai attacks, the government of India has been taking extra cares, because you might have that this particular attack, the terrorist came through the sea routes. So it simply means somewhere that attack, that that ghastly attack on that Mumbai, in Mumbai terrorist attack. So that has also pointed out to the some lacunas that our agencies somewhere failed to get the intelligence, or fail to prevent that attack. So that is why this extra effort has been taken. That one example is that in 2021 this multi-agency maritime security group was formed by India, And the first meeting was recently held in June. Okay, so the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, so he addressed the first meeting. So again, this fact itself proves that when you are talking about foreign policy, when you are talking about national security, so maritime security you cannot afford to ignore. You cannot afford to neglect. And the first inaugural address by Ajit Doval, that National Security Advisor of India. So this fact simply tells that this, as I in the beginning as I mentioned, that maritime security is basically comes under the overall architecture of national security. So this inaugural address has been given by that National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. So in the first meeting of the multi-agency maritime security group. Then there are other measures like there is a body called Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. So it's simply it's a this under this symposium, as from the name itself you can understand. So a series of biennial meetings happens between the countries of Indian Ocean region, particularly to again another aspect is suppose you are having a land border, so you can fence, you can build proper fencing to protect your country by having proper fencing, by having your military along the demarcated lines. But as far as this sea maritime area is concerned, that seas are concerned, yes, obviously there is a concept of territorial waters, but it is not, you cannot build fence, you cannot strictly prevent other external agencies or external elements from coming to your area. So that is why, so first of all, one thing is that for your own national security, for your own national interest, for your own economic interest, your coastal have to be protected, your coast areas have to be protected. As far as non-traditional threat is concerned, the marine diversity, biodiversity in your territorial waters, that have to be protected. But as you know, this is like, these are water bodies when we talk about Indian Ocean region. So there are other countries also. So for a effective, for a better, mechanism to ensure maritime security, you cannot go alone. Yes, you have to have your own, arrangement. As I told you, that multi-agency, that group, as you are having Marine Police, you are having Indian Navy. So that is there. So as a country, you must have that. But that is not sufficient because, as I told you, the proper demarcation of these water bodies or sea lines, that is not possible. So it is like, the line is very fluid. Okay. So in that context, if you really want a security in your, if you really want to secure your country from any kinds of threats coming over the seas, so you have to collaborate with other countries. And that is the idea this Indian Ocean Naval Symposium came into existence. And recently, I think last, the meeting was held in 2020. So it's simply, it is regional maritime issues. So you are collectively with the other members of the Indian Ocean. So you are collectively trying to address the, the problems in the, maritime, the seas, on the oceans. So this is another, and again, it is you can say mostly a brainchild of India. So that's Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. So this is simply collaborating with the partner countries of the Indian Ocean region. It is simply, making partnership for an overall maritime security to to ensure our overall maritime security in the region. Because until and unless your region is safe and secure, so there your own arrangement that might be vulnerable. So that cannot be, that you cannot, we cannot have a very much, very secure, security. The idea of maritime security, that will be, that will not be that much effective if there is a problem in other in the problems in the entire Indian Ocean region is concerned, or in the coastline of other member of the Indian other countries of Indian Ocean region is concerned. So this the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, that is very much again important. And most importantly, this in 2021, I think August. So Prime Minister Modi, so he addressed the UN Security Council. And in the UN Security Council, the debate itself was on maritime security. So, the title was like a case for international cooperation in maritime security. And here, Prime Minister Modi has outlined 5 principles as far as maritime security is concerned. So, in his address to the Security Council, United Nations Security Council, so it simply tells you that in a body like United Nations, when there is a debate on maritime security, so it simply tells that this is important not only to India, so it is important to, I think, all the members of the United Nations, because particularly suppose even if you are not having long coastline, if you want to do business with other countries, you have to you have to have access to the sea lanes. You have to you have to go through these water bodies, and in that context, it is a security concern, particularly from the non-traditional security threat, as I told you, that when it comes your economic interest, economic prosperity. So in that case, it is a concern for all the members of the international community. Okay, along with the countries which are having a large share of their coastline coastline. So what are the 5 principles Prime Minister Modi has talked about? So he's talking the first one. First one, he's talking about that removing barriers to maritime trade. Okay, and in this context, he is highlighting another project of India. So that is Sagar. The full form is Security and Growth for All in the Region. So again, after Prime Minister Modi came to power in 2015, so this framework was formed. So this, Security and Growth for All in the Region. So Sagar. So again, through this framework, India is trying to ensure a regional maritime, security framework. Again, the idea is that you have to, as far as threat to biodiversity is concerned, as far as threat to your, territory is concerned, so you have to, collaborate with other nations. So security and growth for all in the region. So that is in 2015, another initiative by Government of India. So again, to ensure the collective regional maritime security in the Indian Ocean region. And here, here where the simple argument is that we have to, cooperate with other nations which are located in this region, Indian Ocean region. Then, the second principle he is saying, talking about that, yes. So, the first principle is basically talking about, your trade interest, your economic interest, your bilateral, your multilateral, your international trade. So that is from economic point of view. So he is talking about removing barriers to maritime trade. And what kind of barriers can be there? Some, suppose if there is any conflict, between two countries, two littoral countries, so there may be a chance. Suppose when there is there is strategic fuel is coming, or whether there are some strategic elements you are importing, you are trying to get from other countries. So in that context, the other countries, say for example, if I talk about China, so that is the reason China is trying to ensure its dominance in this region, just to corner India. So even during the any kind of conflict, so this they can prevent, they can choke the the sea lanes, they can stop the the supply of fuel or any other element which is important for any country. So that is why this removing barriers to maritime trade. So for security, for economic interest, that is very much important. And if it is a trade on strategic elements, okay, if it is a trade of strategic elements, obviously in that context, for the strategic interest also, it is very much important to ensure smooth maritime trade. So that was the first concern of that is Prime Minister Modi highlighted, that there has to be barriers, removing barriers to maritime trade. It may be there are threats from pirates, so that also be minimized. Okay, this is the first concern Prime Minister Modi highlighted. Secondly, he highlighted that maritime disputes should be resolved peacefully, okay, and in accordance with the international laws. And the most important international law in this context is UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, UNCLOS. So, this, as far as Modi ji tried to, Prime Minister Modi tried to send a signal to all the members that even if there is a maritime dispute, so we should resolve those disputes through, dialogue and discussion, and as per the international laws. And again, in this context, it is very much important, if you really want a secure, sea lanes, secure Indian Ocean region, so every country, involved, then they must respect the international laws. As I told you, that one important one is UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the laws on the seas. And for the, and this is also important from the global peace and stability also, because that out of, I think that if you talk about entire world, if you talk about entire Earth, okay, so it is, that 1/3 is only the, land, another the rest, third, the rest is water itself. The most of the space in the Earth, that is water bodies, it's simply. So yes, we are talking about Indian Ocean region also, but yes, in there maybe, it may be in the Pacific region, it may be Atlantic region, so it may be any region. As I told you, maritime security, it simply means the security on the seas, okay, security from any kind of security, non-traditional, traditional, so it can be any kind of security. So for the sake of global peace and stability also, that in Indian Ocean, the countries involved, directly involved, or the countries indirectly involved, they must respect, the mechanism in Indian Ocean. Similarly, in other areas also, areas also, the concerned countries must respect those, these international laws for the global peace and security. And countries jointly tackle maritime threats from non-state actors and natural disasters. Okay, so another, the third focus, that, the principle Prime Minister Modi highlighted is that maritime threats, it may be threat to the biodiversity. It may be based on, for example, like illegal fishing, illegal unreported fishing. So that is also a threat to the marine diversity. Okay, so even there is non-state actors. Non-state actors simply means, as I told you, that in case if there is a conflict between two countries, so the countries can go in direct conflict with other countries. The countries themselves can go in direct conflict by using the the Indian, the water bodies, the first water state, but at the same time there may be threat from non-state actors. Again, the example is that terrorist organizations. Okay, so there may be threat to your territory from a state also. It may be at the same time it may be the threat from the non-state actors. Non-state actors, you can say, when there is a piracy, okay, on your ships, on your trade, so that is non-state actors. When the terrorists came to India and attacked, that hotel in Mumbai, so that terrorist organization, that non-state actors, that is also very much important. And secondly, natural disasters. You might have heard that when the tsunami happens, okay, in 2004, okay, so these sea lanes are very much important to sending the the aid, humanitarian aid. So from that point of view also, this the securing the sea lanes is very much important. So you see, there are many various dimensions: your economic interest, your strategic interest, your territorial integrity, and even in case of crisis, if you send something, if as far as I told you, for trade also, and for humanitarian assistance, if you want to send some humanitarian assistance, so there must be you must have that smooth salience, the free from any kinds of intervention, non-state actors or any kind of piracy and all these things. So that is important. Next, the fourth principle that I have in my discussion, that I have already included, that Prime Minister Modi has highlighted maritime in the environment and marine resources. that they needed to be conserved, highlighting the pollution from plastic waste and oil spills. So when the large ships, they carry the fuel, the petroleum oil. So many times it happens, there is a leak or there is a oil spills from those containers, and it pollutes the waters, and many times the living bodies, the living entities, the different animals or the whatever the living creatures are there in the oceans, so they are highly affected by this through these oil spills. And also, as you know, that pollution from plastic waste, so that is again a major menace. So Modi ji has also talking about that from purely from this environment point of view, that your marine resources has to be protected, okay, for the sake of your the global ecosystem. Marine environment has to be protected from plastic waste, from oil spills. So that is why also in this regard the countries concerned need to be work together. So that is the fourth principle he has talked about. Okay, so he is talking about responsible maritime connectivity to boost maritime trade with the development of standards, norms and standards. So as far as the trading with other countries are concerned, he highlighted there has to be, as we are having UNCLOS. Okay, so similarly, he has highlighted there has to be some standards, there has to be some, norms which can, ensure a better connectivity, maritime connectivity. So as we are having, through the land areas, we are having land connectivity. So as you have seen that there are different sea lanes, the trade happens. So he has also talked about responsible maritime security. Okay, so all the nations involved should, be very much responsible as far as protection of the this Indian Ocean region is concerned. Because our discussion is particularly, as I'm mentioning, Indian Ocean region time and again, because our discussion is in relation to Indian Ocean region. So these are the that 5 principles Modi ji has talked about. And even if you go back a bit, back, so again it is, all these things simply tells you, again, again and again it tries to impress upon you that if you really want your national interest to be ensured, if you really want your national securities to be ensured, you have to give due attention on the maritime security aspect also. So that is why in the UN Security Council has talked about this. There has been, as I told you, that different mechanisms. There has been, that multi-agency group. And most importantly, another important thing is that it simply proves, National Maritime Security Coordinator. So National Maritime Security Coordinator, the idea was floated in 2000, around 2000 after the Kargil War. But after 22, years, so this year itself, the first maritime, National Maritime Security Coordinator was, appointed. So there is a National Security Advisor, but to give more attention, to give extra effort to ensure a better maritime security. So there is a separate, coordinator exclusively devoted for the maritime, security purpose, and that is National Maritime Security Coordinator. So again, after 22 years, so this has finally seen the light of the day. This is very much important. And if you go back in 2016, in the Ministry of External Affairs, so there was a separate division was established. So the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, so they set up a new divisions to look after these these maritime issues. And again, this MEA later revised its policy and placed 2 islands in the division in 2019, a reflection of its expanding and strengthening Indian Ocean outreach. In 2016, the division was created, set up, and again that was enhanced in 2019. So this, there has been a continuous efforts by the government of India, and as you can say that in the international context also, when the issues of international security is being discussed in United Nations Security Council, So it simply means it has a, I mean, it's a global concern. It's not simply related to India's concern. Okay, then again, there are different moves. So in 2015, Prime Minister Modi, went to 3 of the 6 Indian Ocean islands, like Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Seychelles, and thereby visiting these island nations. I mean, the islands which are located in Indian Ocean region. So by visiting those, areas that Prime Minister Modi, or particularly the government of India, so they are trying to, they are trying to signal that we need to work together with other members of the Indian Ocean region for a better maritime security. Again, see, actually, these are simple facts which simply tells you that how the present government is giving the importance to, as far as maritime security is concerned. So again, in 2019, again, after getting re-elected as the Prime Minister of India in 2019, so the Prime Minister's first visit was to Maldives. Okay, so first overseas visit was to Maldives. So this simply tells you how India is trying to get closer with the countries, with the nations located in these Indian Ocean regions. And in Indian foreign policy, we are having different shifts. For example, after Modi ji came to power, so you might have you are studying foreign policy. You have seen the shift in India's foreign policy. For example, earlier we used to talk about look east. Okay, we are talking about now act east. It simply means that there has been a shift in your engagement. So from looking east, it simply says simply looking will not help. You have to act. So you have to increase your engagement. So there is a neighborhood first policy. I mean, India is trying to give, its importance to the neighboring countries, and the Sri Lanka, Maldives, and all these countries, as it comes in the neighborhood. So through this neighborhood policy, when we are talking about this neighborhood policy, in the context of, I mean, in the context of India's foreign policy, when we talk about in the neighborhood first policy. So the question of, the relevance of maritime security also comes into context. So it simply means it can be a two-way process. That is how I look at the things. It can be a two-way process. So this maritime security, through this maritime security, that neighborhood first policy, that can be, ensured, that can be strengthened. And at the same time, by having this, neighborhood first policy, you can be more closer with these nations. And when you will be more closer with these nations, you can, very easily collaborate, and, the other countries will also cooperate with you. So this, this maritime security neighborhood first policy, so these are very much, interlinked, you can say. So the neighborhood first policy, as I already told you, yes. So another importance, again in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so this India initiated launched a mission that is known as Mission Sagar. So in May 2020, so India sent mission that in the name of Mission Sagar, and it was not for any kind of strategic or economic interest, but it is, as I already mentioned, it is for the humanitarian sake. In this under this Mission Sagar, so India sends emergency medicines, foods, along with some other medical assistance, medical assistant teams, doctors to Indian Ocean neighbors like Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, Madagascar, and Comoros. So again, if you, again, until and unless you are having easy access, secured access, smooth access, better maritime connectivity, better maritime security. So again, even there may be a hurdle. Even there may be a hurdle in your, if you want to provide the humanitarian assistance to other countries. So, for different reasons, this maritime security is very much important for for any country, and that is why when I think Sir has rightly included very it is highly justified that when you are studying about Indian foreign policy, so we cannot I mean this topic is very much relevant. Okay, so Sir has very rightly has included this a topic, so that is very much important. So that humanitarian assistance I have already discussed, that Indian tsunami, that in that during tsunami 2004 tsunami, India sent its help. Sir, are you saying anything?
No, please go on.
Okay, sir. Okay, so this and another, there are already I have mentioned that illegal fishing is there, drug smuggling, human trafficking, in fact. Okay, so if there may be human, as far as preventing human trafficking is concerned, drug smuggling is concerned, so you need to ensure the security in your maritime region. So again, there in 2017, the Indian Navy launched its mission-based deployment to increase presence and visibility across Indian Ocean. So this is very much important again. Okay, so what Indian Navy did, so it established its mission, okay, in Indian Ocean region, just to increase its presence and visibility. Obviously, you need it simply you cannot you cannot ensure the maritime security in vacuum. Okay, so if you really want that there will be no threat to Indian ships or Indian business, obviously you have to have the mechanism in place. So Indian Navy launched its mission-based deployment in 2017. Okay, so so as I told you, this multi-agency maritime security group chaired by Vice Admiral G. Ashok Kumar, that India's first national security, maritime security advisor, coordinator. So my simple, I justify, summarize my simple submission is that as far as Indian foreign policy is concerned, in any foreign policy, the goal of any foreign policy is to ensure, just to to conclude, for the main fundamental the target, the goal of any foreign policy is to ensure its national security, national interest, and also at the same time, your policies should be such that you can emerge as a responsible player in the international relation, in the international politics. And how you can do that? Suppose when you are trying to emerge, when you are trying to become any country, when it is going to become a superpower, when it is going to have its a better say in the international politics, it has to follow certain responsibilities. It has to perform some responsibilities. And as I mentioned, this is nothing that when the India is sending this humanitarian assistance, medical teams, the medicines, it is India is simply behaving a responsible neighbor and as well as a responsible player in the international politics, international relations. So that is why in India's foreign policy, this maritime security has to be ensured, and very rightly, I repeat that very rightly, the government of India has been taking all these measures. So with this, I stop here. Thank you, sir.
So thank you, Dr. Biswas, for covering the subject very well, all aspects included. It's a very comprehensive subject. I mean, you can go on speaking as much as you like, but a pause has to be there. And now I open the house for a question answer session. I will ask our participants to come up with their questions and introduce themselves and then put your question. Come on, be quick.
Hello, sir. I'm Gayatri
Yes, sir.
Dandekar. I have graduated from Ferguson College in History, Politics, and Sociology. I have a question for you. Do you think India's necklace of diamonds strategy is on par with China's string of pearl strategy?
See, at least this I can say this is a response at least. To counter that string of pearls, that necklace, diamonds, a necklace of diamonds. At least, it is a response. And yes, the way India is trying to, as I told you, India is trying to play its role as, again, to counter that China. As China is trying to draw closer the other countries in its sides. Okay. Similarly, India also has to have in confidence with other nations, along its sides. So I think this, at least this, that necklace of diamonds, that is a response, as far as, China's string of pearl policy is concerned. And the way the India is, trying to, playing the role, in the Indian Ocean region, I think, that is, it is at least a response to that string of pearl, strategy. At least I can tell that. And at least, so I am, as I already told you, that very rightly and in the very right direction. And, see that in government of India has very rightly taken cognizance of these facts. Okay. This, the government of, it is very much, I think it is the, I think the people of India should be happy that at least the government of India has taken cognizance, at least has been trying to learn from the mistakes. Okay, as we have learned from that, 2008, terror attacks. So India is trying in that direction. So I think, so it is a, a response and reaction against that.
What do you think are the?
Yeah, go on.
Yes. What do you think, sir, are the drawbacks of our necklace of pearl, necklace of diamonds in comparison with string of pearls?
See, string of pearls, you can see the way actually, the which I understand is that, that economic prowess of China. So if you really talk about, economy, Chinese economy and the Chinese strategy, they have been taking, I think somewhere, India, the challenges that China is trying to counter that. China is trying to counter, India, even if there is, for example, when China is, India's Bangladesh is trying to become very much closer. India's, Sri Lanka is trying to become, very much closer. So in that context, China is coming in between. So I think, that as far as economic limitation of India is concerned, so that may be one challenge. And, China's too much interference. So that can be, another challenge.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next question. Come on. Next question.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I am Riya Sharma, and currently I am pursuing my master's in political science. Sir, my question was that although India has been strengthening its maritime domain awareness by establishing partnerships and bilateral agreements and initiatives like the Sagar and the one you talked about, the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, so why we still haven't formulated an official national security for maritime national strategy for maritime security, given that many other countries which are geographically not located in the Indo-Pacific, like Germany, France, or now even the African countries, have clearly laid out their strategy for the Indo-Pacific. So why is India still holding?
I think, there was a policy, as far as I can, there was a naval strategy policies there. I think there was, that could not be, I think, could not see the day, light of the day. That could not be, implemented. Maybe that infra, the proper mechanism, and at least we can hope that after having this multi-agency group, okay, and after having this, national maritime, again, see, it is simply under the, broader umbrella of national security. Somewhere under the broader umbrella of national security, somewhere this component of maritime security has, remained, neglected. In fact, earlier stand, I think, during 1970s or 80s. So at least that time, India's stand was that we will not, go to the power game in the Indian Ocean region. So we are not going to, counter the, at least, there has not to be any counter or, we should not involve ourselves. I think it simply means we will not go into maritime politics. So that was the stand once. And gradually it has, started to, get importance. And as I said you that the National Security Advisor, so under that, as that overall umbrella, overall architecture, somehow this component maritime security was somehow, getting the less importance. Secondly, as there are, suppose as there are different organizations as far as maritime security is concerned. Marine Police, I have said, Indian Navy is there. So there are other agencies. So somehow the coordination has not been made possible. So first of all, just see, just for a while, just keep apart your separate, dedicated, maritime security strategy. Keep apart. Just see that there was Indian Navy was there, and how this terrorist organization could just enter Indian territory, could enter Mumbai. It simply means there was a coordination failure. We could not get that intelligence. So we need the maritime intelligence also important, and there has to be the law enforcing agencies also. The forces themselves also, combating forces has to be. So there has to be coordination. I think that coordination has been missing. So when there is not even the least coordination, first of all, try to understand your answer. You might get the answer. You can trace the answer in the historical stand of India. Okay, that India did not, was not interested to go into this maritime, politics. Okay, so then gradually, it has come into, it has got some importance, but again the coordination was missing. Okay, so there was no proper, mechanism, and ultimately, I think we can hope now that after this, I think this year itself, 2022, this year itself, this maritime coordinator, has been appointed. So let us hope and see that that such strategy will, is to be there. And yes, you are very much right. That in today's context, when in fact, the USA, is trying to also, just enter Indian Ocean region, South China Sea. So more than borders, particularly we have talked about land borders. That has been, that is why I told you, the term itself is used, that traditional security threat. Traditional security threat means that has been the main concern for the policymakers, from the scholars also, that okay, military, protecting the borders from the military threats, army and all these things. Okay, somewhere this non-traditional security threat, that is now it is becoming more important, and particularly when we are talking about climate change, global warming. Okay, so this sea rise. Okay, so in this context, this maritime security is becoming very much important. And from the fact, again, I repeat, this itself in the UN Security Council, the Modi ji has exclusively talked about this, maritime security, and he has elaborated all these things. So I think yes, it is becoming very much important from different reasons, as I told you. Your economic interest, your trade interest, your military interest, your preventing your the threats from non-state actors, and to emerge as responsible, player in the international politics.